This is our study skill group project, which looks at how human geographer Kerry Burton does research, and it also looks at what this means for producing contemporary geographical knowledges.
The first stage of understanding how our assigned human geographer does research occurred during our interview we set up with Kerry Burton. The interview proved to be immensely valuable for us as it provided us with a deep insight into Kerry's field and upcoming projects, giving us unique information beyond what a Google Scholar search could provide. Our first questions revolved around the field that Kerry researches in. We wanted to establish what she understood to be the field, in which she provided us with the following description. It sees people and place as one. They are not seen as being separate from one another. We then wanted to know what field she conducts her research in, which is predominantly the field of environment and society, involving people and place. Her research is predominantly participatory and is about how people get interested in environmental action. She believes her research is invaluable as participants are the ones who benefit from her work, with researchers and participants working together to do something that they want to achieve. We then moved on to ask questions about how Kerry conducts her research, discussing what the research process is like and how she determines the validity of her research and the scholarly articles she uses to aid it. In an ideal scenario, Kerry's research would be designed alongside the participants. This would be done through a workshop, as it serves as a convenient way of getting all stakeholders together in one place. This ensures that the research focuses on what participants want to find out, as they can work closely alongside other researchers. We then wanted to establish whether there were criteria Kerry uses when selecting readings to support her research. Firstly, she selects readings and articles that have been produced by experts in the field, whose research focuses on people, the environment, and environmental activism. Kerry then turns to Google Scholar to research new interesting areas within the field that she would like to find out more about. Often, Kerry is familiar with the environmental activism research and less so on the specific topics. Focusing on research carried out by experts in the field that are also peer-reviewed ensures the validity of her work, as the peer review process provides a second level of expertise in the papers. Finally, we were interested in understanding how Kerry works with other scholars to produce papers like the ones she provided to us prior to the interview. Work is often divided amongst individuals based on their specialities. Scholars will then come together to create a unified voice which ensures the article doesn't read like separate work. Most of the communication takes place online through emailing and Teams. Earlier in the interview, Kerry mentioned that she first looks for journal articles that have been peer-reviewed, as they've been looked at by other professionals. This led us to ask her opinion on the peer review process and whether she had any potential solutions to it. She said, particularly for journal articles, that it was an important part of the process. It serves its purpose as it can be beneficial to have other experts review your papers and provide feedback. However, Kerry believes that there should be a broadening of the type of publication process. She suggested that reporting as you go would serve as an effective alternative. This involves putting out reports as you go with a research project to stakeholders, which proved to be extremely effective in her plastics research project. She suggests that this would be a good alternative as it's important for people to feedback to others that they are working with. We were also curious to see whether Kerry had come across any challenges when carrying out and publishing research. She talks about the process of getting used to criticism from other academics who dislike her work and also send back cutting criticism. She says you become more hard-skinned and talks about the importance of sticking to your values. She says criticism is particularly common in participatory and activist work, so it's something that you get used to. However, she sees it as an important part of academia, as it can become isolating without it. We will next be moving on to discuss how Kerry and other researchers within this field contribute to producing contemporary geographical knowledges.
So during the second part of the interview, we moved on to more questions with Kerry about the actual publication process of her papers. So this would be in order to comprehend how her research aids the production of contemporary geographical knowledge. So the first part of structuring the paper is important of the research team and how this then helps focus a particular area of the paper to focus on, which publishers are aware of. So this means that Kerry and her team, in this case 5 other people, found numerous papers in order to help what her topic would be, and her publishers then approve of this so they can then go forward with writing the paper, knowing what the topic is on and knowing what papers they are then using. The paper is then compiled once the appropriate papers are selected. The paper is then written, which is then sent for review, which Kerry noted can be a rather lengthy process, and she noticed she has had experiences of papers being sent off, which have then taken up to 6 months to come back. The paper is then sent back to them with various annotations and criticisms saying on how they could perhaps improve. We then asked Kerry a question about whether there is a presentation element of her publication process, which she stated there is no presentation element to this. However, the paper is sent back with corrections, which they then approve and edit and move on. Now moving on to how the research is used in the future once the paper is published. The main way in which Kerry and many academics measure the impact of her work is seeing when their paper is cited and how many cite this and use it in what way. This can be seen through searching Kerry's name on Google Scholar to see how many of her papers have been cited. In the future, Kerry also explored how she would use less quantitative methods within her research when asked what she would like to include and uninclude in her future work. And she wants to focus on more qualitative resources. So this means focusing on more analysis of perhaps literature and policy rather than numerical methods. When we asked Kerry about her future projects, Kerry stated how she does have future journals and papers in the making with many other academics which involve her field and topics that interest her. And then moving on to my next slide, which will be about how her process and her views on her field compare to other academics in her field. This will be covering how Kerry's outlook and how her way of publishing and writing papers compares to other forms of research. So using this, we found other papers, other human geographers, and how they carry out their methods. So as I stated in the earlier slide, Kerry drew on the importance of qualitative rather than quantitative research when it comes to her field and human geography in particular. So in the paper Qualitative Methods 2 by Dowling in 2016, it explores how qualitative research in human geography should be used through the analysis of literature and policy sources. This is in order to gauge a real understanding of human geography topics rather than using numerical methods which could perhaps tell you less on a topic. Another paper we found was The Approaches to Human Geography by Aitken, written in 2015, which explores, again, how quantitative methods can be used in human geography. This can be using philosophy and practice in geographical thought, so tying in philosophy and how this is put into practice. And then this will be explored in the next slide about methodology and how Kerry actually carries out her research.
Looking through wider sources, we found some similarities and differences between Kerry Burton's research and other generalisations made about research in human geography. The paper by Kitchen and Tate describes 5 of the main reasons that researchers do research. 1. Exploration. 2. Explanation. 3. Description. 4. Understanding. And 5. Prediction. Following the question, what would you say is the main reason you conduct your research? Kerry Burton said, "I always hope that actually the main people who benefit from my research are the participants." She also says her research involves a more radical and participatory element. This provides another potential main driver of conducting research to actually benefit the participants whilst conducting the research, which Kerry Burton says she does through workshops as well as the actual research findings. The paper also illustrates potential biases that come from the researcher. Knowledge production is situated within the beliefs and values of the researcher. In Kerry's research, the bias was perhaps minimised by the collaboration of multiple researchers. Drawing on another source, written by Alistair Scott, the peer review process is discussed. We asked Kerry Burton what her opinion on the peer review process was. She said it serves a purpose and it is an important part of the process. The paper describes it as a fundamental to the institution of science and the main form of decision-making around the world. Kerry Burton also said that she found it interesting to engage with academia that contradicts her own research, looking into how people become interested in environmental action. From the wider sources, this appears to be a crucial part of conducting research, being able to consider contradicting points of view, as well as allowing others to peer review your work. The article on peer review says one of the 3 main forces of the relevance of science is new social and scientific challenges, the emergence of complex and controversial social problems. This coincides with Kerry's research, as she was interested in the ways people and place interact and the social element of how people get involved with environmental action. Interviewing Kerry Burton, as well as using wider literature, has been extremely insightful in enhancing our understanding of how human geographers do their research. Thank you.